This is a tale about a prominent high school girl called Beck Horang, a social media celebrity who is exceptionally gorgeous and well-liked by many people despite her icy demeanor. Her life is full with riches, and she has the ability to influence many people. Aside from that, she has a lot of enemies that despise her greatly. The only person she could talk to was Kim Yushin, a male student she had known for a long time. One morning, the school's broadcasting club meets, headed by Go Eun-taek, a model student who is preoccupied with time and organizes all of his activities by schedule. His face is attractive, and many people like him, but he is primarily concerned with those closest to him. The broadcasting club seems to be in need of a new anchor. They agree to bring Horang on board. They thought she might help the club's popularity. They aspire to be named the most popular club, and the winner will be revealed during a school celebration in the near future. In the afternoon, Horang runs into Eun-taek, who offers her to join the broadcasting group, but she politely declines. Eun-taek believes that Horang is oblivious to the circumstances and is haughty just because she is famous. Horang runs into Eun-taek on the bus the following day on his way to school. When Eun-taek shuts the glass pane beside her, it brings their faces close together and creates an uncomfortable mood. Eun-taek claims that he was obliged to do so since Horang ignored him. The school's broadcasting organization has social media profiles that are often inundated with comments from pupils. Some of the chosen messages will be read out, and comments will be accepted as a sort of response. A letter read by the broadcasting club one day causes Horang to fear. The message seemed to be normal at first look, but Horang, who heard it, realized it was directed to her. The message makes Horang fearful that her prior secret would be disclosed. Horang ignored her worries. She goes to see Eun-taek and decides to join the broadcasting group in the hopes of learning who is behind the weird message she heard earlier. So-hyun, one of the members, is uncomfortable with Horang, but she decides to tolerate it. Eun-taek gets irritated when Horang arrives at the TV studio late. Horang apologizes for almost being tossed out of the club and pledges to make amends. Ho-choi's ranks to join the broadcasting club is unexpected. She had just discovered that messages posted to the club are anonymous, and only administrators can know who sent them. Furthermore, each participant is needed to maintain the secret. Finally, Horang does her best for the club, expecting to be appointed as administrator by Eun-taek. Horang and So-hyun were speaking at the bus stop on one occasion. They had a friendship in middle school that didn't work out, and now they're enemies. That's why So-hyun was surprised when Horang joined the broadcast club. Horang takes over the program and dares the anonymous writer to speak to her directly instead of hiding and behaving like a coward. So-hyun confesses that she picked the message to be read, and Horang assumes that So-hyun is involved in this case because of their terrible relationship and the fact that they used to know each other. Eun-taek, the one responsible for the disturbance, chastises Horang. However, she arrogantly mentioned her function as a popularity booster. Eun-taek tells her to comprehend the circumstances and not to underestimate the importance of other people's business. Horang exits the room after being ejected out of the club, which worsens her depression. Horang is constantly alone, whether he is pleased or unhappy. The only buddy she has right now is Yushin, a strange youngster who constantly grins and seems to have no life responsibilities. The only issue he has is with love. He is always trying to capture So-hyun's, but she is uninterested in romance. Yushin was born into a wealthy family, yet he considers himself impoverished and constantly relies on Horang for sustenance. Nonetheless, his compassion for Horang is genuine, which is why he is regarded as a friend. Eun-taek is perplexed as to why Horang is causing such a commotion in the television studio. However, after seeing Ho Social Rank's media profiles and reading several negative comments, Eun-taek realizes that her life as a celebrity is not simple. Many stories about her are spreading at school, but Eun-taek believes they are all unfounded. Why is Horang so enraged when anonymous texts agitate her? Eun-taek wonders. Horang has just discovered that Eun-taek lives in the same apartment building as her. Eun-taek apologizes to Horang for uttering gibberish even though he is unaware of the situation. Their relationship improved marginally when they apologized to each other for what had occurred. Horang returns to the broadcasting club, not expecting Eun-taek to let her be the administrator. It was only then that she realized the message had come from an account named Harley. When Horang digs more, he discovers that the account is friends with So-hyun. Horang once accidentally shattered Eun-taek's record, which he subsequently sought reimbursement from her. Instead of purchasing a new vinyl record, Eun-taek requests that Horang purchase him some inexpensive meals. During their conversation that night, Horang inquires as to why Eun-taek is so fascinated with time. He seems to be a perfectionist who manages to arrange every minute. Eun-taek says that the timetable he creates is a promise to himself, and he expresses his disdain for anyone who violate agreements and lie to him. Eun-taek says that both might be hurtful to someone's emotions. Horang attempts to find the true perpetrator after sending a note to the anonymous author. So-hyun said that she had no idea why the account Harley was friends with her. Instead, she recalls how Ho-rang abandoned her after hanging out with new pals who were highly renowned and seemed to be bad. While following the actions of the anonymous writer who seems to be around her, Ho-rang learns a lot at the broadcasting club. As time passes, Eun-taek realizes that Ho-rang is not as horrible as many people believe, and they gradually become closer. Nonetheless, they restrain themselves and preserve secrets that have not yet been divulged. Eun-taek was born into an unruly home, and his mother abandoned him when he was a child. He presently lives with his father, who constantly brings up the past, which Eun-taek dislikes. He preferred being occupied at school than having to go home and see him. Ho-rang, on the other hand, has a whole family. His father and mother adore her, but they are constantly preoccupied with their jobs. Ho-rang conceals the darkest secret that tormented her about her birthday and other things linked to it throughout this period. If Yushin wasn't there, she'd be completely alone. Things improve significantly after meeting Eun-taek, who seems to grasp what it's like to live alone. Ho-rang hesitated because he felt safe since they were so near. She wants to tell Eun-taek all of her secrets, but she is frightened of being rejected by him. Eun-taek is excellent friends with one of the student council members called Do Woo-jae since he is a productive student. They both like learning, prefer logic over emotions, and seem to be introverted. Woo-jae has a difficult time coping with his lover Kang Jae, who constantly wants to do things with him. They often quarreled and broke connections, but everyone at school knew they would ultimately reconcile. Jae was once irritated by Woo refusal Jae's to open out to her. Jae hopes that her lover would be able to deny anything he doesn't like rather than pretending to satisfy her. Woo-jae may seem to be a decent boyfriend who is always there for her, but Jae sees things differently. She felt as if she were dating a robot that obeyed her every desire without emotion, which made her unhappy. Until one day, Jae conveys her emotions in a message to the broadcasting club. Ho-rang got the opportunity to read the message by chance, and she wrote a tiny response. Ho-rang emphasizes the importance of communication. It simply takes a few minutes to discuss things out from the heart, and that is all that is required to salvage their relationship. Jae had no idea her message would be read aloud. She hurries to see Ho-rang in the studio to get her second opinion. They were in the same class, but not by much. Woo-jae should not have kept anything hidden, according to So-hyun, who is in the studio. While Ho-rang does not entirely blame Woo-jae for closing himself off, he does believe he has reasons for doing so, similar to his own circumstances. Woo-jae realizes his error after hearing the message Jae sent. Jae was delighted when Woo-jae invited her to meet, but she was taken aback when she discovered that her lover had decided to terminate their relationship. Woo-jae confesses that the first time he encountered Jae in the tutoring center, he fell in love with her. He had no idea her hero would contact him first. He was overjoyed yet unable to convey his sentiments. Unlike Jae, who is incredibly expressive and can divulge everything, Woo-jae recognizes that their differences are what bring them together, but he also recognizes that they may cause pain, particularly for Jae. That's why he regretfully chose to call it quits rather than fight all the time. The day of the school celebration is approaching. Members of the student council and other committees engaged worked hard to prepare for the event. There will be numerous types of performances, and all of the school's groups will participate to display their greatness. The broadcast club intends to include an on-air part in which Ho-rang acts as a live broadcaster in front of a huge audience. The anonymous writer with the handle Harley is aware that Ho-rang is the administrator of the broadcasting club. She often frightens her with text messages. She promises to divulge Ho-rang's important secret. Ho-rang was irritated by this circumstance. She was frightened that those who approached her would back away. Ho-rang met Eun-taek after befriending Yushin, and she is now pleased when Jae approaches her. Yushin constantly prepares everything for the festival in order to attract So-hyun. So-hyun is well known, albeit not as well as Ho-rang. So-hyun is recognized as a hypocrite who acts as though he is innocent. According to rumors, she had several relationships with men. No one can confirm it, but it seems that So-hyun often communicates with various guys through SMS. Yushin loves her for no apparent reason, and So-hyun doesn't seem to mind. Meanwhile, Jae is still struggling with her own emotions. She pretended to be alright, but her heart couldn't help but feel sad. Yushin is a close friend of hers, and he is sick of hearing about her split with Woo-jae. Yushin was certain that they would return shortly. Forgetting Jae is a difficult task, and Woo-jae understands that he must strive hard to forget his ex-lover, and it seems that this will be their last farewell. Because of their hectic schedules, Eun-taek and Ho relationship ranks is becoming closer. Some romantic moments make individuals uncomfortable, yet it develops a feeling of desire. That proximity reveals to Eun-taek that Ho-rang has a very delicate heart. Why doesn't she speak up for herself when she's blasphemed? Eun-taek asks Ho-rang. Ho-rang argues that she may argue all she wants, but it's pointless since people simply want to believe what they want to think. After a lengthy period of separation, Eun-taek received a phone call from his mother. They agreed to meet, but the mother cancelled owing to a scheduling conflict. Eun-taek is sad that he expressed his sentiments to Ho-rang, but this is evidence that he is beginning to open up to her. Eun-taek says on that unexpected night that he always felt joyful when he was with Ho-rang and believed it was because she was a wonderful person, but then he understood it was because of love. Eun-taek shares his sentiments but does not seek solutions. It is the festival's day. The event organizers did an excellent job. In the meanwhile, more students joined in on the fun. The event is accessible to the public, and students from different schools are welcome to attend to enjoy all types of performances. So-hyun receives flowers from an unexpected visitor. He was a high schooler who recognized her from social media. So-hyun had made it obvious that she wasn't interested in him, but he was obstinate and appeared aggressive. Yushin overheard their discussion. So-hyun departs, while the obstinate guy is warned by Yushin to come to his senses and accept her denial. So-hyun admits she is not interested in dating. Yushin realizes and swears not to cause her any problems. He just wanted to be at her side and act like a regular buddy. The broadcasting club's on-air session starts. Ho-rang enters on stage, causing her fans to applaud. The part is also streamed live on YouTube for the general public to watch. Ho-rang reads a few chosen mails and makes some amusing remarks. Soon after, one of the remarks on the live broadcast shook Ho-rang. As she read the remarks of someone who finished the countdown and then begged her to quit up, her body froze. The children got terrible news on the school's website just as the count was ending. A photograph depicts Ho-rang implicated in a bullying situation. All of Ho-adulation ranks that day quickly changed into insults. It seems that the anonymous writer had been waiting for that opportunity to harm Ho-rang. The mastermind behind all of this is revealed to be Hee-soo, a member of the broadcasting club who was harmed by Ho-rang in middle school. When the students sought an explanation, there was a ruckus. So-hyun yelled at the organizers to turn out the lights immediately. Eun-taek hurries to shut the stage curtain before escorting Ho-rang to a safer location. Ho-rang doesn't explain anything to Eun-taek, and she kisses him farewell before leaving. After all, Eun-taek doesn't trust everything he hears. He would only believe it if Ho-rang conveyed it to him personally. Ho-rang unexpectedly returned to school the following day, as if nothing had occurred. As usual, she was broadcasting. Hee-soo is taken aback, but she pretends not to notice and continues to play her role. After hearing Ho admission ranks that she wasn't a bully, Jae and Yushin were comforted. Throughout the day, Jae attempts to keep the chatter at bay, and she isn't afraid to confront people who disparage Ho-rang. Ho-rang merely acts tough in the face of everything. Ho-rang is compelled to see someone she despises after school. She is Sun-ju, the senior who broke her in middle school. People mistake Ho-rang for wicked, although she is essentially a victim. The photographs indeed reveal Ho-face, ranks, but the tale is false. They believe Ho-rang is a bully because of her haughty demeanor. Sun-ju has a large following on social media. The dissemination of Ho-picture ranks makes her suspicious, and she requests that he keep quiet. So-hyun had no idea what had happened to Ho-rang. The happenings on the festival day prompted her to look into it. Meanwhile, Eun-taek notices Ho-rang sobbing alone. He couldn't stand by and watch his hero suffer, so the first thing he did was console her. Eun-taek is aware that Ho-rang is not yet ready to open up to him, which is one of the reasons why Ho-rang has yet to embrace his love. Ho-rang is told by Eun-taek that he would wait until she is ready to share her tale. On one occasion, So-hyun questions Ho-rang about what truly occurred and why she abandoned her. Ho-rang instructs So-hyun not to delve any further and to avoid bringing up the past. Ho-rang is unaware that Hee-soo is the source of the issue, so she goes about her business as normal. She is astonished to learn that Yushin is friends with Eun-taek and Woo-jae, despite the fact that they are not in the same class. Jae had a lot of leisure following her breakup with her lover, and she now often visits Ho-rang at her place. Jae wants to make sure she's alright and forget about the slanderous remarks she's received on social media. For a time, everything is quiet. Students from the school travel for spiritual reasons. Woo-jae is compelled to travel with his ex-girlfriend on the same bus, all because Yushin grabbed his seat in order to meet So-hyun. Woo-jae is unable to move on, as is Jae, who still has dreams for him. Meanwhile, Yushin is overjoyed since he is getting closer to his hero. Later that night, while reminiscing about the discussion on her mobile phone, Jae unintentionally phones her ex. Woo-jae unexpectedly invites Jae to a covert meeting. Just before the cops are about to apprehend Jae, Woo-jae takes her into cover. Woo-jae admits on that unexpected night that he can't help but miss her. They were both quiet for a little period before becoming engrossed in a love tale that grew once again. Ho-rang searches for Jae and slips out of the dorm, but she ultimately finds Eun-taek, who is thinking about his dilemma. This time, Eun-taek informed Ho-rang about all of his issues, beginning with his parents' divorce and his mother abandoning him when he was a child. His mother had promised to see him, but she continually violated her word, which is why Eun-taek despised Ho-rang for not keeping her promise. Ho-rang speculates that Eun-mother takes is terrified since she loves him so much. Sometimes a person decides to hide from the one she loves the most. Ho-rang could relate since she was going through it. In fact, she shares Eun emotions, takes and adores him. It's simply that she was too terrified to show her actual self, so she opted to conceal it. Eun-taek first doesn't comprehend what Ho-rang means by her comments. He did, however, eventually understand after seeing his mother. Their encounter seemed a little hollow. Even when Eun-taek knows his mother has a new family, he remains mute. At the conclusion of the short visit, Eun-mother Takes expresses her regret for abandoning her son in such a manner. That's why she vowed to see him to say goodbye, but she was too terrified to face separation for the second time at the moment. Eun-mother Takes apologizes and expresses her love for him. Eun-taek realized what Ho-rang was saying after that. The sting of being rejected never goes away, but Eun-taek is relieved to know that his mother loves him. After all, they had to confront the truth that they had to live apart owing to their circumstances. So-hyun was unable to remain motionless. Hye-su's actions draw her attention, and her long-running investigation starts to provide some light. On the day of the spiritual activity, she approaches Hee-soo until she discovers her mobile phone's password. She just pulled out her phone to confirm things when the occasion presented. So-hyun is surprised to see images of individuals being circulated on the day of the festival, and she eventually discovers that Hee-soo was behind everything. So-hyun demands an explanation from Hee-soo after deleting all of the images, who then recounts the episode from the past. In middle school, Hee-soo aspired to be close friends with Ho-rang, but she was neglected. One thing Hee-soo does not comprehend is that Ho-rang was compelled to ignore her since she was being bullied at the time. Until one day, Hee-soo happens to see Ho-rang while being tormented by seniors on her birthday. That is why Ho-rang is terrified of her own birthday. Ho-rang is reminded of a tragic tragedy on his birthday, which should be cherished and received with delight. She would remember it for the rest of her life. So-hyun sobs as she realizes Ho-rang avoided her because she didn't want to share her grief. Ho-rang dumped So-hyun on purpose so she wouldn't become entangled. It's difficult for Ho-rang to divulge everything since it's a shame. Even though she is the first lady who wants to hang out with Ho-rang, So-hyun regrets not being able to assist him. So-hyun has attraction troubles and feels better at ease making friends with guys. While people around her find her unusual, Ho-rang enthusiastically accepts her and they become fast friends. So-hyun believes Ho-rang ditched her because she has a new buddy. She was unaware that she was entrapped in misery. So-hyun requests that Hee-soo stop her deeds, and she agrees to keep quiet. To safeguard Ho's secret, So-hyun decides to pretend he doesn't know the truth. However, not long after the spiritual goal is completed, Hee-soo resumes her vengeance act because she is dissatisfied with what has occurred. She first intended to shame Ho-rang by revealing her dark secret as a victim. People, on the other hand, assumed she was the guilty. Hee-soo pretends to be a victim and accuses Ho-rang of being the perpetrator. Not shortly after her phony confession spreads on the school's website, So-hyun goes to see Hee-soo. Just like Ho-rang, who seems to already know that Hee-soo is the root of all troubles, Hee-soo leaves several traces, which Ho-rang is able to detect. Major Su's purpose in creating the fake confession is to bring Ho-rang and her closest friend So-hyun together. Ho-rang believes So-hyun is enjoying the farce while pretending not to notice. When Ho-rang departs unhappily, Hee-soo grins with satisfaction, while So-hyun attempts to explain the significance of her actions. So-hyun admits that she has just discovered the truth. She feels very regretful, but decides to stay quiet in order to protect Ho's identity. Ranks, however, the ache of not doing anything for her buddy who was in misery was much worse than her remorse. "You should have feigned till the end and continued ignoring me," Ho-rang cried. Seeing So-hyun's made her extra sadder. She feels much happier knowing So-hyun knows nothing about her. "What can I do?" So-hyun responded, "You are my pal." That response left Ho-rang unsure of what to do. She felt conflicting emotions and opted to leave. Falsehoods are believed by almost everyone at school. Seeing the situation, Ho-rang chooses to play the villain and agrees to all of the allegations leveled against her. Ho-rang feels a lot better about herself if she is labeled as an offender rather than a victim. Looking weak in front of a large crowd, she believes, will just attract more bullies who will harass her in the future. Ho-rang has been doing this to conceal her vulnerability. She hides behind her haughty facade to frighten others, and she behaves rudely so that no one dares to bother her. However, after seeing her friends worry and the problems of the guy she loves the most when confronted with her, Ho-rang awakens and resolves to disclose the truth. Ho-rang appears in front of Eun-taek, who has been waiting for her for quite some time, and she tells him everything. Ho-rang feels that her current new friends can look after her, so she doesn't have to be frightened of seeming weak or pretend to be tough in order to confront everything alone. Ho-rang announces the truth via a live broadcast to the school when her mental preparation is complete. Ho-rang describes her ordeal but does not divulge who the true perpetrator is. Ho-rang does not forgive the abusers. She only wants to go ahead and be glad that she now has many people who care for her. Meanwhile, So-hyun disseminates information indicating that Hee-soo has always been a fraud. Instead of blaming himself, Hee-soo blamed someone else. When she became obsessed by her trash talk, she attempted to pull others who had also participated in blaspheming Ho-rang. She, on the other hand, forgot that these folks were simply a bunch of brainless creatures who observed the reality from the outside and enjoyed to guess. However, since people like making errors, all eyes are now on her. Any compassion she had previously felt became heresy, and she was completely ostracized. Yushin and Jae are depressed since they have just discovered the truth. Ho-rang expresses gratitude to them for giving her the bravery she needed. Ho-rang apologizes to So-hyun and expresses gratitude for her concern for her. Their relationship was still uneasy, but they were off to a fantastic start. Everybody has a happy ending. Woo-jae recognizes his flaws, but he chooses to be more open to Jae, which improves their relationship. Yushin had not anticipated a response from So-hyun. Even though So-hyun didn't acknowledge it, all of his emotions for her was pure love. So-hyun knows this, and she sees no reason not to adore a guy as genuine as Yushin. She's just not ready for a relationship. Instead, So-hyun begins to prioritize it. Yushin is the most important guy in her life. Ho-rang is thankful to Eun-taek and feels fortunate to have met him. Ho-rang had no expectations of liking him since their first encounter was everything but romantic. Ho-rang admits her affections to Eun-taek, and they are now formally engaged. Ho-connection ranks with So-hyun is improving, and their friendship is rekindled. Hee-soo is thought to be changing schools. Ho-rang urges her to be self-aware and to quit worrying about what other people think. Ho-rang tells her to make genuine friends since they are the only ones on whom she can trust. The narrative concludes as Ho-rang goes about her everyday duties without her mask on. She is completely herself, pleasant and cheerful. When she returned to perform at the event, she was warmly greeted.